When I look back at some of my first digital artwork, the number one thing that makes me cringe the most is how I used to paint skin. So today I want to share a video with you guys that I think would have definitely helped me when I was getting into digital painting, and hopefully it helps you too. I've gotten a couple of comments from people asking me about my process on painting skin, so I thought this would be a good video to make. My ultimate goal is to give you guys all the art information I wish I could give to my newbie self, so hopefully this video helps. And yeah, let's get right to the tutorial. So I've got my basic line art here, and before I do literally anything, I'm going to set this layer to multiply, and I'm also going to change the lines to a little bit more of a reddish color. I just use the curves tool to adjust it and get a color that I like, but you can also just alpha lock the layer and color in a red color. Do whatever your heart desires. This will help me later in the painting when I'm picking colors off the canvas. I'll have more warm, vibrant colors than I'd get if my lines were black. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, I'll show you what I mean later. So most base skin tones are going to be somewhere in this red-orangey range. I'm going to go with this color for now. You don't want to pick a color too saturated because your shadows are going to be very saturated when we start on that. Anywho, now that our line art is ready to go, I'm going to grab a brush to fill in my base color. Just a quick note on what brush to use, it really doesn't matter. I recommend picking one that has pressure sensitivity turned on. This means when you apply a little pressure, the colors are a bit lighter, and when you apply a lot of pressure, the colors are more opaque. This gives color variance as we continue to paint. So once I've got my base color filled in, I'm going to go ahead and add some warmth to the middle of the face. So typically when you're painting a face, it can be broken down into three main sections. The top is usually more yellow, the bottom is more blue, and the middle is more red. It's up to you how much you want to actually show this. I pretty much always make the cheeks and ears more red because it adds a lot of warmth and variation. Some artists also tint the forehead yellow and the chin blue, but I typically don't, so I'm not going to here. I just wanted you to be aware. After I add some color to the eyes, I'm gonna color pick this dark color here and use it to darken some of the lines around the eyes and other parts of the painting like the nostril and under the chin. This gives me more colors to pick from later on, and it also helps define some of the areas that I want to keep as I start adding shadows and highlights. Which is what I'm going to do next. So I'm starting with shadows, so I'm going to go ahead and pick a slightly redder, much more saturated color for the shadows. If you don't know, your shadows are usually highly saturated, and your highlights and lighting are less saturated than your base skin color. So this sort of creates a curve along your color wheel, which is kind of helpful to keep in mind as you're picking your colors. I'm going to place my shadows in the darker area of the face. This will depend on lighting, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to say that the lighting is coming from above, so I'll place my shadows accordingly. I'm going to place some shadows in the corners of the mouth, around the nose, and under the chin also. Next, I'm going to place some highlights. Again, I want a color that's less saturated than my base color for the highlights. So I'm going to apply it to the forehead, around the sides of the nose, etc. The painting looks a little rough right now, but once we start rendering, it's going to get better, I promise. One thing I've learned as an artist is there's usually an ugly phase of a painting that you kind of just got to push through to get to a much more pretty outcome. Unfortunately, the pretty outcome might not be seen until about 95% into the painting, so you kind of have to have some blind faith here. You might have noticed that I also added some bright colors to the painting. I added a bright orange and a kind of lavender color. This is just part of my art style that I like to do, where I kind of like to add pops of color just to add vibrancy and interest to the painting. It's totally your preference, but it's a lot of fun to play around with, I think. Once I'm decently happy with the lighting and the shadows, I'll start rendering. So I'm going to create a new layer and place it on top of my line art layer. Then I'm going to start color picking around the painting, and I'll start softening edges, I'll create more hard edges, and just making shapes that kind of help to show the form of the face. I'm also going to take a textured brush or two and add some texture to the face. Again, this is just to add more depth and interest to the painting. So earlier in the painting, when I changed my line art to a more reddish color, this comes in handy during this step. Whenever I'm rendering and color picking, the colors that I'm picking, because my lines are blending in with the colors that I already have, it allows me to pick colors that are much more vibrant and less muddy. If I had black lines during this step, I would be picking colors that are a little more muddy. And as I kind of start to wrap this little video up, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who's subscribed to my channel. Whether you've been here for a minute or have been here for over a year, I sincerely can't thank you enough. I can't believe that people like watching my videos, so it's kind of cool to see people actually be interested enough to sub. And with that being said, I hope this video was helpful to you. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.